So we will start building the app. And first we will implement the layout. To implement the layout, we're going to use a relatively new framework called Jetpack Compose. This is a declarative way to build a layout. What does that even mean? Imagine you're going to decorate a room. Usually you would have to plan things on paper, bring furniture one by one, and sometimes rearrange things multiple times to get them right. With Jetpack Compose, you would describe what you want and it would appear in the room. And if you wanted to change things, you would change the description and the room would update. That means Compose is reactive. UI depends on data. Whenever you change the data, the UI will update automatically. And that is called a recomposition. Recomposition is when Compose redraws the UI based on the new data. And a key part of Jetpack Compose is that it's written in Kotlin. And that brings all the goodies of Kotlin into building the layout. That means the simplicity of Kotlin code and building reusable UI components easily. So how does it look like? For the screen that you see on the right side, you can see the Compose code of it on the left side. As you see, it's very declarative. So let's compare it with the old system. This is how it would look without Jetpack Compose. As you see, it's written in XML. So the old system is called XML layouts. It's a slightly different screen, but for the most part it's the same. So with XML layouts, in that example of decorating a room, we would have to do all those things of planning things on paper, bring furniture, the UI elements one by one, and rearrange things when we want to update the UI. So XML is the old way of layout implementation. But learning it is still valuable because you will probably see it in the legacy codes of many Android apps. So the last data shows that 40% of Android apps have started migrating their XML layouts to Compose. So if you happen to work on any of the existing apps, chances are that in the code base you will see some XML layouts at least. But that being said, Jetpack Compose is recommended by Google and is the modern way. So it's showtime and we're going to build this app in this course. This is a typical e-commerce screen which describes a product, shows the price and the ratings. We're not going to build the whole e-commerce app, but just one screen, because otherwise it's too much for this course. One screen, and we first start with implementation of the layout itself. And then in the other lessons, we will tackle how to communicate with the server, how to architect the app in a way that data of the server can be displayed in this screen. But first, we will just make the layout itself with some dummy text, not coming from the server, just hard-coded text. And by the way, this amazing design has been done by nobody than myself. It's probably full of design mistakes and just bad UX. So that's not the point of this app. This app is about implementing it. So let's start with, first of all, looking at where the current screen is. Because if I run the current app, you can see it here in the running devices. You can see this is how the app looks like. But where is this text even coming from and this empty screen? So we talked about main activity being the host for all the screens, which you can find it here. So we have only one activity in the project and it's called main activity. If you remember in the life cycle of activity, we talked about a stage called create. This is where the screen is rendered. On the stage of create, or the function of onCreate, that's where you give the content to the activity to show it. And currently is just this, just a greeting message, hello Android. And this is basically the whole screen. So for now, just ignore what you see here. We're going to rebuild the whole screen. So I'm going to delete it completely. And I'm going to also delete this part. Now the whole screen is gone. The theme, we'll talk about it later. Don't worry about it right now. But at this point, the screen is completely empty. If I rerun the app, you will see nothing here. I will create the new screen in a completely new file, because that screen will have a lot of code and I don't want this main activity to contain codes that it shouldn't. So I will just create the new screen. This is how we can create a new file in an Android Studio. Right click on a package, new and Kotlin class, product screen. And to be a bit organized, I'm going to create a package under Android 101, call it screens. And just drag and drop this new class to screens package. And now we have product screen class. So how to create a new compose screen? First of all, compose screens are not classes. In general, any compose screen or UI component is just a function, like this. That's just how compose works. And to just let the system know that this is a compose screen and not just any random function, we need an annotation called composable. It's like this, composable. I press enter. This marks the function as a composable. And what does a composable mean? A composable describes a part of the app's UI. It can be a button, it can be a part of the screen, or it can be a whole screen. And in this case, this composable will show a full screen, so product screen. Now it's time to look at the design again to see where do we start. So I want to start somewhere simple. And for example, this image is not a simple one because this image is coming from internet. So the content of it is not an asset in the app. So for the beginning, I will just ignore the image, try to implement this lower part of the screen. These title, description, price, and the rating. So to show a text in Compose, we have a composable called text. Very simple. You write text, and the first one that you see is a composable. And whatever you write there, for example, this will be displayed on the screen. Right now, you don't see what we are building. So this is not good because I want to see the progress of my layout as I'm writing it. In Compose, there is a very cool feature called preview. So you can see your screen before you actually run the app. And by using this annotation, we can build a preview annotation. And I basically copy paste the function, well, except the text part, and I just add a postfix product screen preview. And now whatever composable I put here is going to be shown here. But right now there is nothing because I'm not using any composable here. So I just bring the product screen here. And now if I build and refresh, we should be able to see this text. Amazing. So let's now write the text just like the design. So I'm just going to copy paste this. You can zoom out here to see the full screen. As you see, it doesn't look a lot like this. So only the text is there and is in black. So I want this to have a color like this, orange color. And this is where we can use a very cool feature of Kotlin, which is called named arguments, which is you write the name of the argument and equal, then you give it the value. So now this is the text, and don't forget the semicolon. Next argument, I will specify color. To give color to a text, we can use the color class. This is the color class. If I press enter, it imports, you can see, as a part of Compose framework. And there are multiple ways to use the color class. So one is just to use the common colors that come with it. These are predefined colors. Black, white, and also other type of very common colors. So for example, if I do this, you can see the text goes white, but that's not what I want. I want my own orange, which is a very custom color. So that's when we need color code. Color code is something that you would get from the design. At this point, I know what the color code is for this. So I'm going to just copy it. Sorry, it's not a string, it's just an integer. So this is how we can give the code to the color class. And now you can see it's orange. You can see even the color is displayed here, and you can change it from here. There are many ways to come up with a new color. You can either choose ones that come from the material color palettes, or you can make up your own if you're familiar with RGB. And you can change the hue here and also reduce and increase the opacity. But that's a complete another world, so I'm just going to leave it at the color code. Hey, it's gone. Yeah, going to leave it at this color code that it was. So this is the orange title, but it's still not bold. As you see here, the design has a bold title. And that's where we need another argument. So don't forget the semicolon. We need the style argument. So this is when we need to use text style. Text style is used to specify things like font size and font style. So bold, italic, regular, this kind of stuff. And I'm going to instantiate a new text style class. And there it has some arguments. So for example, the font weight argument. That's what can help us achieve a bold font like this. And now it looks a bit more similar. However, the font size is not the same. So I want also to apply the font size. And my designer told me that is 22. And as we see, we cannot just pass an integer. This is where one of the big challenges of Android apps in general comes to the game. So there are so many different Android devices. They have many different screen sizes, and even the ones which have almost the same screen size, they might have different screen pixel density. So that means one of them can have more pixels in the same square inch. If we just say my font size, I want it to be 22, in the screen that has more pixels, it will look smaller. And the screen that has less pixels, the font will look bigger. And Android came up with this thing called scale independent pixel, or shorter called SP. And how it works, it takes into account the screen size and the screen pixel density. So for the screens which have smaller pixels, it will increase the size automatically. And also on top of that, the users can decrease and increase global font size in their devices. So this is an accessibility feature. Users can say, I want big fonts in all of my apps. And that's when you want your app to also follow that font preference of the user. So all of these complexities are solved by Android, but it only requires the developer to not give an integer as a font size. So we need to give a scale independent pixel, or just SP. So this red text, it means it's an unresolved reference. So if I just press Option Enter on Mac or on Windows, Alt Enter, then it gets resolved by importing it here. So that's it. Now we have a bold title. So next step, I want to implement this description. So very similar. It just has a different style. So I'm going to copy paste the title. And now we have two titles. So I want to change the text of the second one. I just paste this. This is supposed to be emoji. Later in the app, it will show as emoji, but right now it's not. So this is the very long description. And as you see, it's not looking good. So they started to overlap with each other. And of course, also the style is not how it should be. So first of all, let's get it out of its misery and make it not overlap. I want the title to be on top of the description. So in Compose, to do that, we have something called column. This is it, column. And whatever you wrap in a column, it will be stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to take this one out and put one bracket here. Now they are wrapped in the column, or in the Compose terms, they are now children of the column. So we have two of them on top of each other, and I want to change the color. So the description has a white color. So I'm just going to use the general white, and it's not bold. So I'm going to delete this one, and the size of it is smaller. So my designer told me that it's 18. Let's change it to 18. It's getting somewhere. So now there is some space between them in the design, but I don't have it. So in Compose, to make just a space between two components, there are so many ways, but in this scenario, the typical one is to use something called spacer. So this is another composable called spacer. And spacer basically is transparent, but it does take a space. Whatever space you give it, it takes that space. So in order to do that, we cannot just do stuff like this. So in Compose, to specify things like height, width, we use something called modifier, like this. Modifier is a very powerful tool used to specify how a composable looks, how it behaves, and where it's positioned. So we will see many different usages of modifier in this layout, but the first one will be this. So if I want to say I want this spacer to be 16 units high, this is how I can do it. Height and 16. But of course, we cannot just give 16 because of what we explained, the problem with different screen sizes, different pixel densities. So for font size, we used SP. But that's not what we can use for other sizes like width and height, because SP is affected by the font scale preference of the user. So that's very specific to fonts. But for other stuff, we have something called DP. DP stands for density independent pixel. So it's very similar to SP, which was scale independent pixel, with the difference that it's not affected by the font size preference of the user. So when user defines that I want all the fonts to be big, SP will get affected, but DP will not. And DP, if I import it, then we have a size for our spacer. Now we can see there is a 16 unit difference. So now the next element is this price at the bottom. If I just continue like this and just add one text at the bottom, for example, I just go here and say, this is the price. You can see it here. And you might think you can just give bigger space to it, like, I don't know, 48. The thing is, this price is stuck at the bottom of the screen. It means when the content of the screen, for example, this image, description, and the title, if they are taking less or more space, it wouldn't affect this one. This would always be stuck to the bottom. So we cannot achieve that by just giving it extra space. So something that we can use to achieve that is called box. It's unresolved. I press Option Enter, and now it's imported. So box gives you the ability to make components overlay each other. So if I wanted this text to appear in the center or at the left here, or for example on this image, you can do it with box. So box gives you the ability to overlay and align things. So you can say, I want this text to be overlaying the whole screen, but be aligned at the bottom. And that's exactly what we need. So I make the box to wrap the whole compose screen by doing this. Now everything is in this box. I'm going to delete this spacer. I'm going to cut this one. I'll put it below the column. And now the children of the box are column and this text, this price. And you can see now it's overlaid here, but I want it to be at the bottom. So first I'm going to give it this style so we can differentiate this text. So the color of it is a green color. This is the green color and it's bold. And it has the font size 28. So now you can see. So I want it to be at the bottom. This is where we need to use another modifier. So we already used one modifier for specifying the height. And now we need another modifier to specify the position. So we say modifier, create a new one. Now we have access to align modifier because we are using box. And if I want to say align it to the bottom, I need to use the alignment class and then bottom. So it's bottom starts. I don't want it to be bottom in the middle. So I don't want it to be here. That would be bottom center, but this is bottom start. In a left to right language, start means left. But if user switches their language, for example, to Persian, that's a right to left language. Then start becomes right. So that would mean this e-commerce app for a right to left language will show the price on the right side. So I just can say bottom start. Now you can see it's here. But this does not have the size of a screen. So this doesn't look like a screen, as you see. It's a part of the screen. It's because the parent component, which is this box, is not taking the whole space. So it's very shy. I need to make it take the whole space. You guessed it, we need another modifier, which is called fill max size. Fill max size takes the whole space as much as the parent of this modifier allows. So now if I zoom out a bit, we see this price at the bottom. Nice. So now let's also add this rating on the right side very similarly because it also sticks to the bottom. So I just copy this, very easy. And for now, I just hard code all these values. So don't worry about it right now. I'm just going to paste this and also this one. But as you see, they are aligning on top of each other. I want the rating to go, and it has a different style as well. So that is white, font size 18, and not bold. So now you can see that there are some spaces around these texts. So the title, for example, has a space at the top, left. The description has the same space on the left and right. And also these texts, they have space on the side and at the bottom also. So for these spaces, we don't use spacer because this is a case when we need them to have space at the edge of the parent. This space is not between two composables like this one. And in Compose, that's when we use something called padding. For the title, as you guessed, we need another modifier, which we achieved by using this padding. And the padding is, it's 16. So 16 dp. So now you get 16 padding on the left, right, top, and the bottom. And I copied this one the same and pasted for the description. So now the description also has 16 padding on every direction. But now you see the distance between title and description is getting too much. So I want to change it and only give the padding to left and right. To do that, we can specify this argument, horizontal. The price has a 16 padding on the left, but at the bottom it has a padding of 32. To do that, we can do this. You can see I can chain two modifiers together. So I say padding bottom 32 and then start 16. Now you see that it has the same paddings of just like the design. So the padding is until here. This little part is the navigation bar, so that is not calculated, that is outside of the screen. I do the same for the rating, but with the difference that the rating has an end padding. And to make these lines a bit shorter, I just break them like this. So for this lesson, I think it's enough. There has been a lot of new terms, new stuff. Let it sink a bit. And with that being said, the key takeaway of this lesson was that Jetpack Compose is a modern way to build user interfaces in Android. It's reactive, it's declarative, and it's written in Kotlin. And the action point for now is to implement the product screen layout, but leave out the image. We will tackle that one in a separate lesson.